Board meeting to order since it's 5 o'clock. It's a special board meeting on Tuesday, June 26th, and we are here to fill a board vacancy. And so I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order, which I already did. And we've got a list of questions for a panel of applicants. And so we'll first go through and assign the questions to trustees. And then we've got Mr. Mejia on the phone. Good deal. And we'll go through and assign the questions to trustees, and then we'll get started. Bring everybody up to the panel. So let's go for let's do the questions first. Who wants number one? I'm looking for a hand.
I'll do number one.
Okay, Cindy Marks will do number one. Number two. Yeah. Adolfo will do that. And number three, Charlene. Okay. And number four. All right, Chad. Okay. And then, so we'll get started with that. And so if I could get the candidates to come up to the table, and then we'll give them their name tags as they come up. I don't see Matthew Harrington. Am I right? No. Okay. He had informed us it might not happen tonight. Oh, they could sit, anyone can sit wherever they want. Okay. Yeah.
All right. I would have drawn an either, but that's fine. No, go ahead. Just let them sit wherever.
Because we're going to draw the names.
Okay. All right.
I'll bring those down.
Okay. And then Chris, are we going to have a timer up here on the board so they can see the time?
No.
How will we do the time?
When I do this.
Oh, okay. All right. That works too.
I remember those when I was over there.
Yep.
All right, as we went over last night, we were going to draw names out of the envelope here, and I'm going to take out Matthew Harrington since he's not here, so he can't be the first person to ask a question. So what we'll do is we'll draw a name, and so the first person to ask a question, if it ends up being Omero, then he'll be the first person, and then we'll go down to Jessica, if that's okay with everybody. All right, and because we'll go to the right, and so he's kind of in the middle. So we'll go to the right from the first person that I draw out the name. And but let's go through and just introduce yourselves so that everybody has their name, so that your name is pronounced correctly at least one time tonight. I'm going to try and do my best on everyone's names, but go ahead. So if Jessica wants to get started.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Oh, good. Okay. Hi, my name is Jessica Riojas. So it's Riojas.
Riojas, great, thank you.
Hi, this is Patricia Gillum, but I prefer being called Pat.
Great.
Hi, Ryan Chambers.
Frank Liguria. Sam Piersdorf.
John Irvin. Rodney Price.
And theirs isn't working. That was a great microphone test as well. And then on phoning in from Skype. And where are you at, Omero?
I am very far away. I'm Omero Mejia. I am currently in Mexico.
Great. All right, Omero Mejia. Okay, so I'm going to draw a name here of who's going to go first. All right, Pat Gillum is our lucky winner for the first question. So that would be Trustee Marks is asking that.
All right. So the first question is, what is your understanding of the LCAP?
Okay, it is part of the whole funding process for the districts. It is a piece of the whole funding process of the LCFF, which is the state's full piece, and then our piece makes the board accountable to the community. It will engage, and it has, since it's been since 2013-14, and pay all the parties, parents, educators, employers, and the community in the process, because it takes a community to build a good school district, in my opinion. I'm glad they did this. It does give more control to the local districts. However, it requires more accountability. The plan, which we saw last night, gives an overall vision of what the student, with the students' input and the parents' input as to what the needs and the values are for the community. It also gives the local board the ability to be able to assess what's good, what may need help, and how to fix it. And then if at the end of the year, if some things are unmet, it gives them the great ability to be able to fix those problems. There's 8 areas. I won't list them all, but there's 8 areas. And as I read over the plan, it appears that we've addressed all those, and it's a very good plan. And my understanding from some of the things I read, that it's modeled for the state. So I commend the board for putting that together. It allows them, I think, the main reason it's there, and it helps make the district more efficient in their resources because they are finite. And it allows transparency to the community, which I think transparency stops any of the political or other unfortunate things that could happen because you're there and you can address the needs of the students.
All right. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Ryan, Mr. Chambers. Okay, so what is your understanding of the LCAP?
Okay, my understanding of the LCAP is basically it's part of the LCFF, or the Local Control Funding Formula. And it didn't used to be this way, but like all these different groups, like parents, educators, employees, the whole community, they're all kind of mandated now to decide and plan how the money's going to be spent for our school district. And I also did look at the LCAP documents on the website for kind of like the draft and then the last couple years, and I felt that was a very good thing to understand how the whole process works and all the graphs and everything. So it's basically like taking funds that used to be for like categorical type of reasons, and now it's kind of making it so that it's controlled by local school districts. It includes allocating money. The public is involved at pretty much every step throughout the process, which I think is great. And I'm greatly interested in this topic because I was going through the teaching credential program, and I was learning a lot about equity and the difference between schools and certain types of students. And I also learned that that it used to be unfair to this area before we had LCAP, as far as funding goes. So I would really like to see that change. And when I ran for school board last year in Southwest Modesto, I got a lot of information from people going door to door. And I thought it was really good. I understood their needs for funding and how it's different in Southwest Modesto compared to all the other schools. So I've participated in kind of hearing about the LCAP process through various board meetings. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. And next, I should have asked, are we going down the line? Was I
Yeah,
supposed to
you're
do that?
correct. And so
Okay.
it goes
All
to,
right,
to
Mr.
Frank.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So my understanding of the LCAP is pretty deep. I completed the master's program at CSU Stanislaus with the focus in educational administration. So I had the opportunity to actually look at LCAPs from around Stanislaus County. We evaluated them, we worked on them, we critiqued them, and we even made our own LCAP plans. And also, having taught for the last 5 years in the Sylvan Union School District, I've had the opportunity to be involved in various issues regarding the LCAP and even facilitate some town hall meetings. The LCAP has 8 priorities, as you heard mentioned earlier, and all of them are focused on meeting 3 goals, which is conditions of learning, student achievement, and also engagement. And what the LCAP does is it brings the community, it brings the stakeholders, it brings the students, it brings the teachers, it brings everyone together to meet those goals. So each district creates 3 goals that are aligned with the 3 goals provided by the state, and they basically create actions to meet each one of those goals. And it's the district's plan for reaching those goals. And what that does is it allows a framework to be initiated for the entire district. In fact, each school site then goes back and makes a site plan. And with the site plan, what they do is they look at what goals they need at their site to reach the LCAP goals of the district. And then they create actions, and every year they go back and they reevaluate. here's this goal, here's this action we took towards that goal. Was it successful or was it not? And throughout the LCAP, throughout Modesto City's LCAP, you'll see there's multiple actions that are taken with different measurements to see if they've met those ones. I know the Modesto City one, you guys have one that's focused on providing safe facilities for all students to enhance learning. You also have one that is focused on student achievement and also supporting student achievement socially and also supporting it academically. And all that gives us a framework that can allow all students to learn. And that's really what the LCAP's about. Each district has its own needs, and it's allowing people the opportunity to come together and decide what is best for their district. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sam?
Hi. This is a pretty objective question, so I won't, spend a lot of time on it. Everything he said is perfectly accurate, so I endorse your answer as for the LCAP. I would just add that I think it's great that Modesto City Schools has had 19 or so of these town halls, and that's fantastic. I've been to a couple, and it's great to get all the stakeholders at the table. So that kind of collaborative opportunity is huge, and I like that change with LCAP funding. I like more local control. I think it's great listening to the priorities of all stakeholders, from counselors, teachers, students, and all across the entire district is fantastic. So I'm a huge fan of that control, and I was here last night, and I got to see this amazing draft. Whoever puts these spreadsheets together deserves a raise. And some goals are met and some goals are not met. And we have like 3 years to enact and make those changes. And so I value very much the collaborative elements of the LCAP.
All right, thank you. John?
Yes, good evening, board. Interim Superintendent Benquist. The LCAP, from my understanding, given that it was signed by Governor Brown back in 2013, with the primary focus on making funding equitable. It was based on equity. How we make our school districts more equitable to address the needs of all students. And so as part of that local control funding formula, which I was part of the LCAP team for Aspire Public Schools, is where you have your base grants, your supplemental grants, and your concentration grants. And so the base grants are the grants that students get based on, the districts get based on the ADA that every student generates. And then you have the supplemental grants. And that's where you come into the equity part of it, because it allows you to have 20% more above the base grant to address those equity needs within the district, depending on those low income, English learners, and foster youth. Then you have the concentration grant. So if you have 55% of your students that fall into those categories of foster youth, English learners, low income, then you get an additional 50% funding to help you to make the school district more equitable in addressing the achievement of all students. And so with that, before it was a policy model, now it's an empowerment model for school districts, allowing parents, students, teachers, the community, business to get involved in helping the district map out the framework for how do we address the needs of all students in an equitable fashion. So now all of our students come to school, with shoes. We're giving them shoes to be able. We give them the shoes to fit. Okay. Instead of just shoes to fit.
Right. Thank you, John. Rodney?
Going first of all with LCFF, the local control funding formula was set up by Governor Brown, like they said, and it was to simplify how the LEAs would get their money versus the complicated ADA system. And what every student will get his the base allotment for every student, plus anywhere from 20 to 55% for those in need, low income, English learners, foster children, and so forth. And this leads to the local control and accountability plan, which means that every year it's required to have meetings, town hall meetings, call it what you want, and to get the community, the families, and the district to come up with their LCAP, their plans on how to spend that LCFF money.
All right, thank you. And now we'll do Omero.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll do Jessica. Okay, Omero, can you hear me? Shake your head. Yes, Omero, can you
No,
hear
he
me?
probably can only hear me. So,
Oh.
can you hear me?
How much time do I have to ask the question?
Okay, you'll have 2 minutes to answer the question, but we're having technical difficulties. Can you try it again? See a
He
yellow
may
bar.
only be able to hear me.
Okay, go ahead.
Jim mentioned that. So, what is your understanding of the LCAP?
Well, I appreciate all the other responses. To that. I did believe from ability.
Time it. We aren't hearing you, Omero.
The students that from some of these neighborhoods that are that have a lot of issues coming in, and continue to implement engagement will a longer process. Can you hear me?
No.
Can we attempt telephone?
Yeah, it might be best to try and call in instead of Skype.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Which number do I call?
We'll get you a phone number. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Can you go ahead and call me?
Yeah.
It's our first time trying Skype, so we thought we'd see. You heard our conversation last night. It doesn't always perfect, so. We tell him to call. Is he calling it?
Okay.
There it is.
There we go.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. All right. Can you hear me?
Great.
Can,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you doing this accommodation for me in the first place to be able to.
Oh no, Skype is okay.
All right. Can you hear me? I'm going to read the question and then we'll start the timer. All right. So what is your understanding of the LCAP?
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate you accommodating for me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for accommodating this me being able to interview through this process. I apologize I couldn't be there, but having said that, I would like to get into it. I agree with most of the responses that some of the previous candidates have stated. I was sharing earlier when you couldn't hear me that I went through the school system here locally. I went through I went to Bret Harte, Robertson Road, Mark Twain, Modesto High, and our school could have used a lot of this new way of funding our schools during those times. We could have used some of this. So I feel like all the responses, as long as we continue to engage parents meaningfully, engage students, and actually be strategic in the coming years of the learning and evaluating how our plan is making an impact. I think that the goal is to make things more equitable for students, and I think we could have used this long time ago, and I think we're in the right place. I totally think it's the right approach, but I do think we need to continue to improve upon what we have made so far in the first years.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if we need to mute it because it might get some feedback now on the phone. We'll see. Oh, yeah, turn the mic off. Okay, so next question, Jessica. I'll just repeat it. What is your understanding of the LCAP?
Hi, can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
good. Okay. So the LCAP, it's part of a bigger branch, and it's ultimately a plan to meet annual goals. It's really community specific. Like the previous candidate, I am an alumni of Modesto City Schools from pre-K at James Marshall to Modesto High. So it goes through 8 basic areas, which I believe that I could have had during my time at the school, since every Modesto school and every school in general was different. It goes through basic services. It goes through parent involvement, which in detail, I feel like Modesto City Schools do need more parent involvement and also more student achievement. Just this is a great 8 areas that they specify for, since it's so community specific, and it goes through 3 separate categories. So yeah, ultimately it's a local control and accountability plan.
Thank you. All right. This takes us to the second question, which is Trustee Lopez. And let me pick the person who's going to read the question. And it won't be Miss Gillum anymore. So Ryan Chambers.
Okay.
So he's first. Hang on just a minute. Let him read the question, and then then we'll go from there.
How would you prioritize various budget issues?
Okay, so I think the surveys are a good place to start. Like the one I got in the mail, this one. I feel like it's good because it breaks down all the things that people care about in our school district. I mean, our teachers, our students, and I feel like it has some very good information in there. And we can kind of find out from that list and how it's prioritized, basically what our school district needs to be successful. I think we need to look at the most important and urgent issues and start solving them. And I think we need to find out where the money comes from and who authorizes it, such as LCAP money. I think we need to also look at our financials, such as figuring out how much money we have to spend for various funds, how much we are saving, and how that might change in the future. We need to look at the pros and cons of every decision and all the stakeholders involved. We also need to see where there's opportunity to invest in our children's future or where we are constrained by the government. I noticed that in a recent survey, this one, leaking roofs, repairing science labs, and lighting and school safety seem to be the top 3 priorities from the surveys that were given out. And I think we also need to look at our policies to determine and accommodate recent changes, such as the refugees, basically, such as the ones at Davis High, and how that'll affect our policy for our school district. Thank you.
Mr. Frank, how would you prioritize various budget issues?
So there's a lot of factors that go into this, but it comes down to me 4 key terms, which is safety, needs, effectiveness, and longevity. So the first thing goes to safety. We have to have safe schools. In order for everyone to do their job, for students to learn and be able to learn and focus on learning, we have to have a safe school. For teachers to be able to teach, we have to have a safe school. For the community to be involved, they got to feel safe when they're on campus. Parents have to feel safe sending their kids to school. So that's the first area. You have to focus on safety. There's no way around it. Second thing is needs. There's all different types of needs in a school, all right, in a district. And there's always going to be multiple needs. But the thing is, you got to prioritize which needs do you need today, which needs do you need tomorrow, and which needs can wait a year or two. And you got to look at that, and you got to go with the needs that you need right away. The third thing is effectiveness. There's a lot of programs. The district's LCAP has multiple programs and actions taking place. But we got to look at them and say which ones are effective and which ones are not effective. And you know, in education, sometimes we're a little too nice and we don't always say when things are not effective. But we have to look at programs and we have to say, you know what? This is a great try to solve this problem, but maybe it's not effective, or maybe we need to modify it to make it effective. And then the fourth thing is longevity. It's important for this district to always be economically strong in the future. And that's something that always has to be a focus. And that also means sometimes that means spending more money today to save money in the long run, like, for example, having solar panels. So I think all that contributes together and plays together. So when you're really looking at budgeting, it's almost like football. You have to have your offensive line doing what they're doing. You have to have, which is keeping the quarterback safe and the offensive safe. You have to have the quarterback doing what they're doing, and you got to be meeting the needs that the team needs. And you have to all be effective. And without that, the team can't execute the plays they need to do. Same with creating a budget for a district.
Do we just answer you reread questions? I can't remember.
If you would like to. How would you prioritize various budget issues, Mr. Sam?
Sure. I'm glad you asked me that. Well, I think the surveys are great, and prioritizing based on the LCAP is great. I think safety is absolutely number one, but I would also tie in maintenance to safety. I think there are issues on campuses when an AC breaks in August. I mean, that has to be prioritized. I think we need shade structures. When we start so early. I mean, there are safety concerns that also tie into maintenance. So those would be probably at the top. And then second to that, I would probably technology is huge, and not just the technology that we give to students, but the technology that we use in classrooms. And I don't think there's total parity yet among all the schools. And I've still seen teachers using overheads, and I've been in classrooms, elementary school classrooms, and what they're writing, what's on the board is pretty limited. And so, bigger boards, smart boards. I mean, technology would be a great priority. And then after that, I think there needs to be a data-driven process. Where are students succeeding and where are students being unsuccessful, at what areas, what populations, and then based on those needs, some students, as we saw last night, some students will need more funding in order to sort of close those achievement gaps. So we need to look at the data to see where those needs are and prioritize those needs.
Thank you. Mr. Irvin, how would you prioritize various budget issues?
Yes, first we would need to, traditionally budget has been done by, you look at previous year's budget and you plan for the next year based on that previous year budget. Now we're in a more strategic prioritizing and commitment now based on the LCAP, the LCFF and the LCAP, and using those goals and priorities, we rank those, we get the priorities, the results of those, and then we begin to allocate those based on the priorities, such as facilities, which is a goal one in MCS budget there. Safety, how are we being, our schools feel safe. Both safety from an external and internal perspective, because they both carry two different types of perspectives. There's feel safeties within the school, and what about the safety concerns externally? And then you begin to evaluate those priorities, and then based on what your allocation, what do you have? You got to have 1% in reserves. You know where all your available resources are coming from, and then you begin to address those priorities through the funding mechanisms. And then through that, you have to, the good thing about LCAP is it has that continuous improvement model in it. And so you will know when it's time, and that mid-time for the in November, when you're looking at how things are going mid-year, because you don't wait to the end of the year as traditional, because then the year is over and you got to start over again. Whereas it allows you to go and say, hey, we short here, or we need to do some intervention here. Here in November, let's make some adjustments there. We can make that with some budget adjustments, some program adjustments, and so forth. And so we create accountability, and because the resources should be based on accountability. No more, feel good. Oh, I feel good about this program. Is it working? Thank you.
Same question. How would you prioritize various budget issues?
I would prioritize it by the LCAP objectives, making sure that they are being fulfilled to satisfy the community in what they want to spend their money on. I take a conservative approach to spending, and at the same time maximizing as much potential to teach the kids, to educate the children, and also the safety issue would definitely be another top priority.
Thank you. Mr. Mejia, how would you prioritize various budget issues?
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, great. I was just checking my mic because I have a little bit of an echo with the computer as well. Well, first of all, I think how I would prioritize is through student success and achievement. And what I mean by that is, do the students have the resources, the supplies? Do they feel, like I said, would they feel safe? Are the facilities? Is there support that will make them successful? So I think priorities is, of course, listening, but most importantly, always looking through the students' lens, first of all. And I think we have a little bit of a roadmap with the LCAP plan. So secondly, I would prioritize it through our local control accountability plan priorities, and then also evaluating those to make adjustments for the next budgeting issues. If we're missing a place that we know we might need spending more resources in terms of training and development of teachers, especially with Common Core standards and all that is required. But we need to spend more in training and development of the professionals that are going to be with the students. But everything should be centered on students and families and what do they need. Because in some parts of in some schools, we might need to invest a lot more than in others, just because students are maybe struggling with a lot more stuff going on in their lives. For example, emotionally, psychologically, and of course economically. But so all those be that always the budget issues focus on students and all that they need.
Thank you. Ms. Rojas, how would you prioritize various budget issues?
So can you hear me? Okay. So I would have the LCAP as ultimately the foundation. It is really important for the budget to be a reflection of the LCAP. In particular, I was looking at the bullet points from yesterday, and what really hit home to me was a couple that weren't met about third graders not having the percentages to read and write at their outcomes. So I'm going into school to be a speech language pathologist, and I've learned how important literacy is and how that can reflect if you don't meet that outcome by third grade, because they're not learning to read anymore after third grade. They're reading to learn. So that affects the teachers, because it gives teachers need extra time for those students, and that also affects them mentally and socially. And so I think that literacy should be one. So yeah, so that's one example of how the LCAP should be reflected in. Also, it should be how it would be impactful for the future. So I am pro writing. I'm pro overhead writing. I believe their penmanship nowadays is getting a lot worse, because it's all like typing in on computers and Chromebooks, which is I love the resource of it, but I don't think that should be the only way they learn to write. And yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you. Mrs. Gillum?
Yes.
How would you prioritize various budget issues?
Well, first of all, budgets are budgets, and they're all under constraints, and the district's no different than any other budget that I've ever worked on. Big or small, they start with that cap that you got to work with. But after that, then you start looking at what you can do with the money that you do have. It isn't a matter of a line item budget. That's not really what it is. You have to know the reasoning behind that line item and whether or not it affects the LCAP, whether it affects the students. If you cut or change or do anything, who does it affect? You really need to know that in detail for every line item. I think the LCAP is a good way to start because you've already addressed the needs. You see what they are, and then you need to prioritize based on the unmet ones from the prior year or the current year that aren't going too well, and the areas of concerns that you hear from the public on that process. Once you decide on some of those, you should have continued input during that process. Personally, I feel the first priority is safety, and making the classrooms conducive to good learning. I grew up a long time ago when we had Quonset huts, and they were not conducive to real good learning because of the heat in this lovely valley that we live in. So we need to make sure that the place that they're going to learn is safe and conducive to the learning. The teachers have a hard enough time trying to deal with students, let alone if they're dying of heat or freezing in the winter. Secondly, the technology that we have today, I don't like a broad brush, but there's all sorts of things that we can do with technology, including making the classroom more technology and having the students have the ability to access that. Third, we need to ensure that teachers are in place that understand that technology. I, for one, understand certain parts of it, but not a lot, and I think we need to make sure that our teachers are up to date on it. I think it's very important to keep funding in for those innovative programs that perhaps spark that light that we're looking for in students, because that light is what's going to propel them to look inside the box, not just see the box, but look inside the box, want to look inside the box, and get excited about what they see.
Thanks.
Takes us to the third question, and Trustee West.
Who are we starting with?
I will draw a name out. Let's see. John Irvin is first, so then it would go from John to Rodney Kreifels.
You look pretty excited about that. Do you think our schools are safe, and why?
Well, that question. I would say I feel that our schools are safe, and as safe as they can be within this current climate or environment that we live in. And so when I look at school safety, I look at from both external and internal, physical, and technological, because our students have access to technology. So safety could become an issue through technology as well as physical safety, verbal bullying, and all those other things that come into play. I would say I think that Modesto City Schools does a really good job in terms of ensuring that our schools are safe within the context of our school boundaries. And I know they've now gone through, have their own security force, which is a good thing. And I just hope that they're still maintaining those connections with the police departments, sheriff departments, and things like that to further increase that safety net outside of our schools. But I've talked to students that I work with to this day that say they do feel safe within our schools here in Modesto, but they still think folks have access from outside as well. And so, but for the most part, they do feel safe. And so that's very important coming from students and teachers alike.
Same question. Do you feel our schools are safe, and why?
Considering the circumstances, yes. The student climate should be the utmost importance of our priorities, but it's a double-edged sword. You can't build walls around 35 schools and still provide a positive work environment or education environment There'd be more like a prison if you're going to go through screen doors and or security checks, metal detectors. I think spending all that money, wouldn't be feasible. And also, I think we need to improve the parent participation, the staff awareness, police presence, and make schools safer from the inside, and just keep the kids safe.
Do I need to read this?
Your mic.
If you
Do you think our schools are safe and why? Mr. Mejia? Can you hear
Can
me?
you hear me?
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear us?
So for me, it'll just depend on who you ask, and at the district level, it'll be difficult to say that everybody feels safe. But how I'm reading this question is, I think we got to look at two different components to safety, and one is the external factors that I think some of the other candidates also expressed. How are we preparing ourselves for people from the outside kind of creating a problem for us? And I think we're doing well, but we can always be learning from best practices and new strategies in places where they implement this stuff to prevent someone from the outside harming our students. And the second thing I think is be internally looking at the cultural sensitivity, the harassment, all the cyberbullying, all the other stuff, and also bringing in like mental health and doing other things and continuing to build partnerships. I work with city schools for a longer of 10 years where you go out there in schools, you build relationships with families, and that's why it's okay when someone is able to call you and ask you how can they do this. Sometimes it's just about reassuring what would happen if something, an emergency comes up. So I think building those important partnerships and relationships, which I think I have done tremendously over the last decade with Balestra City Schools and across the different schools and about 10 to 15 schools in the area. So I just think it's looking at from two perspectives, and it's also something that we need to evaluate constantly. We can't just say, oh, we think we're safe. It's something that we always got to keep checking, and it's in a different moment in time that we live. So we always got to be checking back with the parents and making them be part of that. But I think relationships and looking at internally, how can we build our kids' culture sensitivity and also so it could also increase the safety in our communities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Same question. Do you think our schools are safe and why?
Yes, overall, I feel like Modesto City Schools are safe. As a previous alumni, school was always my safe zone. I didn't go to school in the best areas. They were always like high crime areas. But however, I always felt when I was at school, I was safe. I feel like there's a strong difference between being safe and then being sheltered. I felt like Modesto City Schools did a good way of exposing me to like different things such as drug awareness, alcohol awareness. One thing that hit home to me was we did a mock car crash of like drunk driving and seeing my friend pretend being dead. I don't know why, it just really hit home to a lot of my peers and I that, wow, that could really happen. And it's something that was happening. A lot of kids, it was kind of like the white elephant in the room. A lot of kids are drinking and are driving. And I feel like that really hit home to me. More of like it humanized the situation, which I liked. Technology-wise, I feel like there should be filters on there. They might not be fun for the kids, but it's in order to protect them. I feel like having the campos and the security and the sheriffs on it there's kind of a misconception that cops are here to like negatively bring down the mood, but it ultimately made me feel safe. So yes, overall, Modesto City Schools are safe.
Thank you. Same question. Do you feel our schools are safe and why?
Basically, yes, I do. We have precautions in place to take care of the obvious threats that come to our classroom, whether we like them or not. The schools know how to take care of the kids in dangerous situation, and I believe they have drills and things to make sure that the kids feel as safe and they know what to do in case of an emergency. However, more concern to me is where school shootings and things that happen. I think we need to have protocols in place that are not locking down the stores and not doing all that, but making sure that no one from the outside that has nefarious items in their mind to do have to check in first. You have to check in everywhere where you go. There's no reason why we can't have those in place to be able to stop some of that without making the kids feel this is after hours, close the doors, and they have to check in. I think that's perfect. I commend the Modesto Police Department last night and saying what they do. I know that sometimes a uniform scares, but that's their job to make, and they're doing a good job of making that be a friendly place to go, not a bad place. And given some of the things they see on television, that's not always the case. I think they're doing a good job for that. I also believe we could bring mentors, perhaps outside campus members, not necessarily teachers, but bring them in as well. Because if the internal violence from bullying and things of that nature is going on, then if you have mentors to be able to talk to that not the teachers, not the schools, help them be able to help the kids themselves see how violence is going to affect them and hurt them. And I think it would alleviate it and make the schools even more safe, both inside and out.
Thank you. Same question. Do you feel our schools are safe, and why?
So I feel like our schools are safer than they used to be. We're always working on it, but I can't say they're safe, because if I start saying that they're safe, then we'll become complacent, and if some sort of emergency happens, we won't be prepared for it. So I really enjoy learning about safety, and I'm all for safety. I remember when I was a sub at Modesto High, actually Craig Ridquist and his associate was walking from door to door and making sure that every room was safe. And I felt that's really great, because it alleviates a lot of people's fears in the media. And we can actually make sure that our schools are safe and solve any potential issues and prevent a tragedy from occurring. I really like seeing school resource officers at our schools. I think security and school resource officers are really good for people to feel like they're safe and to know that there's someone there to do something about it. I'll also say that safety has so many categories. I mean, there's a resident basically told me at Burbank, and I visited there too, that there's a huge fire lane now where there used to be parking, so students have to travel from across the street, and we have to worry about them being hit by vehicles. And I think speed bumps is a common thing that I was told that parents wanted when I ran for school board last year. I think we could have more cameras. We could focus on bullying, and I just want to say that we also need to take into account students' perspectives of safety, not just our own. And I want to make sure that we're not blindsided by a tragedy we could have prevented. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you feel our schools are safe, and why?
Overall, yes, but I'm going to use a word that I think Mr. Walker is going to like. We need to be proactive at all times when it comes with safety. And the reason is this. First of all, we need to practice safety when it comes to technology. We know that, and we have programs. Modesto City has programs in place, right, to teach students about cyberbullying, about how to be safe, not give out their information, how to know that whatever they post online is probably going to be online forever, even if they delete it. So we need to continue doing that and keeping them engaged. We can't just create one program right now and use that for the next 20 years. It won't work. We also need to work on protocols as well. When it comes to keeping students safe physically, we have to remember that even though we lock a school down in the fact of putting a fence around and making people check in and out, that does help deter people from coming on campus and doing bad things. However, if someone is determined, it's not going to stop them. They can jump a fence. There's other ways on campus. And we have to make sure if that happens, and we hope it doesn't, that the students know what to do, the teachers know what to do, the staff members know what to do, and their families know what to do. Now, I know right now, Modesto City Schools and most districts around here, we practice lockdowns, we practice lockouts, we practice fire drills. and all that. And usually we only practice the minimum state requirements. But I think we need to be proactive in making sure everyone's fully trained. And there's a lot of companies out there that can actually do this. Gavin DeBecker is a security firm that has an academy for their own security team, and they actually protect CEOs, CFOs, actors, actresses, a lot of the elite people in society. And I believe if we proactively reach out to them, that they will probably for free, since it hasn't been done yet, come in and train us on active shooting and other protocols so that everyone knows what to do. This is something that's become popular in society, happening, unfortunately, and security firms are out there, they're looking for a way to make money, and we're looking for a way to be protected. And if we're the first ones to go in, they can use Modesto City Schools as an example of how they can protect the school district. And we also need to make sure family members in the community know that if there's a shooting at their kid's school or any other major disaster, that they don't just run straight to the school, that they know, if say it's at Beard Elementary, that they go to Davis High School, and that's where they go instead of interfering with the police officers or whoever else might be there.
Thank you. Do you feel our schools are safe, and why?
It's such a nuanced topic, so yes and no. I think we can't be complacent, as this gentleman said, for sure. But I want to address it in a few different ways. First of all, there have been many new safety protocols that I appreciate very much as a parent. We've had traffic accidents and break-ins, in and around schools, and the phone dialers and the emails, and all of that constant communication has been great from principals. So I applaud that from Modesto City Schools. I have 3 kids at 3 different levels of school: elementary, junior high, and high school. All 3 campuses are open campuses. You can just walk right on. And I appreciate that when I'm in a hurry, but a part of me thinks, gee, I wish there was someone at the door who said, can I help you? And that could be a retired veteran, that could be a police officer, that could be any number of community members who just want to do something for the good of the community. So I would like that check-in. Roosevelt does have a gate, so you have to go into the office, but those open campuses do kind of scare me. We had one incident where a person was pushing onto the door, and actually it was my wife who was behind me holding the door, and he had just done a home invasion, the cops, and he just went right through the school, broke through, and he hopped some fences. Nobody was hurt, but that is a danger, and it would be nice to have people there. And then the thing that people have mentioned, which is huge, is the personal safety of our students, the bullying. There's a lot of anti-bullying campaigns and peace builder pledges, and that sort of happens in elementary school. But in high school and junior high, there's greater cyberbullying, and so we need a little bit more, I think, in that way. And I love the community stuff that's been going on, the ride to school day, where dozens of kids were riding their bikes and police officers and parents were there. So lots of those community initiatives to create a culture of safety and support is huge.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to the last the last question for the whole panel, and that is Trustee Brown. And I've got to pick the last person who's going to get. Jessica is going to be the first person on that question.
Okay, Jessica, what is your vision for the future of Modesto City Schools?
So I see a school that empowers each other to succeed in through education, through safety, through health, through communication. I see pupils of character and integrity that are graduating with the understanding of what to do afterwards in all aspects, such as work, college, vocational school, whatever they want to do. I see appreciation of staff. I see, because ultimately, as the Modesto City Schools work staff, we are entitled to of raising the community. We're raising the thinkers of the community. We're raising the employers. We're raising it all. So I feel like it's our entitlement to do our best to stretch out the generation for the next one. I would like to see more ethnocultural stuff going on in schools. I would like to see, there is a strong misperception of parenting teens. I'm a parent and I'm a student. And I see a lot of, and I work in a program that deals with at-risk youth. A lot of them went to continuation school, dropped out, and at age 17, they're saying, oh, wow, I can't wait till my baby's this age so they can have a better life. And I'm just telling them they can have a better life now, them as mom, as dad. So I just feel like building in that, building the parenting teens. So yeah, I just see, I see success and I see transformation going on, and I hope for the best.
Okay, Pat, tell us your vision for the Modesto City Schools.
My vision is one of mutual cooperation and respect from all the parties, everyone, teachers, students, staff, community, disaffected community members at this point in time. I envision the district to be a model of success for the state. It did so with their first LCAP, and I think that they are in the position right now to be able to be that for the state. I want to see schools reflect their personalities. We have older schools and we have newer schools, but I want them at the same time to be proud of their school and reflect their excellence in education and be proud of that excellence. I want a district that engages everyone in the solution of the challenges that we face. I envision more collaboration with the business community, forming partnerships, perhaps adopt a school or a class or maybe some portion of a class, both financially and hands-on. If they're involved, they will be better off. They know that because businesses like myself crave well-educated people to stay here and work for us and perhaps buy us out in the future. I believe that those business could help. I would also like to work closely with the alumni of the high schools. They are committed people that still love their school, who want to do more things for the school. They're always doing fundraisers for their schools, and I think if we engage them more, they would even come up with more opportunities. Nonprofits, such as the Parent Resource Center for mentoring, to be able to help those for the parent resources, or ones that are parents that maybe don't have real good role models, and they can be able to go there and teach us how to teach the kids better. I think the board has done a wonderful job, and I think they're in the position to make things happen in our community, and I think they have the passion, as I do, to be able to make Modesto City Schools, as it always has been, a very good place to raise a student.
So Ryan, what is your vision for the future of Modesto City Schools?
Okay, so for my vision of Modesto City Schools, I like to look at least for the next couple years and beyond that to kind of figure out what my vision should be for this district. And I notice Modesto City Schools in some ways is at the bottom of certain lists. I want to make sure that we're near the top of those lists so that other districts will ask us, why is your district so successful in our various programs? I really like the Codex program at Hanshaw, for example. I think we need new programs like that. I also think we need to continue doing other successful programs. And I remember when I was in high school, I was part of the robotics club. I think collaborating with the business community and kind of working on technical education and other avenues where students who aren't necessarily very into education, they may be very passionate about welding or a workshop or something that this Modesto area really needs. And I think we can work with the nonprofits. I think we also need to adapt to changing needs and job skills and prepare our students for the workforce, especially our high schools. I see a lot of potential for success, and I'm really excited for the future. I think we have to shoot for the stars and look how we can have the best future possible for our students. Thank you.
Frank, same question.
My vision from Modesto City Schools is what happened to me when I entered second grade at Beard Elementary School. I had a teacher named Dr. Laura Limbo, first year teaching. She asked me what my goal was, and I said to read chapter books. And the moment she did that, she worked with me all year to help me read chapter books. And what it did is it changed my life. We're in the business of not just teaching, but we're in the business of changing lives. And that's what it's all about. Now, we teach them the skills they need to be successful so that their life can be better than it already is. Whether they enter in with a wonderful life or they enter in with a very, very tough life. And we have a lot of students that enter in that way. Our job is to help them change life by giving them the skills to help them compete in the 21st century. So my vision for Modesto City Schools is that when we walk through the campuses, that we see teachers teaching at high levels, and that we see students understanding expectations are high, and that we believe they can reach those expectations and exceed those expectations. That when we walk in through the classrooms, students are engaged, the community is involved, businesses are involved, and that we are there to support our community by giving the students the best education possible, by inspiring the students, by showing them no matter what their dream is, they can achieve it, and this is a tool for how they can achieve it. There was a famous guy, Vygotsky. He was from Brazil, and he believed how to overcome poverty was through education. I believe that today, that we can overcome poverty, we can overcome the obstacles of our community if Modesto City Schools, which it is the largest district in our area, provides the best education possible and shows our students in our community that, hey, we're not here to be the 40th ranked school in English language arts or district or county, that we're here to create exceptionally well students that can compete regardless of who they're competing against.
Thank you. Sam, same question?
I'll give you 3, and if I have time, I'll give you 4. We want the safest, most supportive schools on the planet. We want 100% graduation success rates across all demographics. I mean, if I could wave a wand, that would be our goal. Secondly, I think I've taught at MJC for 18 years, and what I want and crave is harmony between administration and teachers. A great deal of collaboration and cooperation among those huge stakeholders. I want transparency and understanding on both sides. And so that kind of cooperative model is huge. That kind of shared governance is huge. And I think LCAP is a huge part of that. So I look forward to that. But that kind of harmony. And then thirdly, as a teacher on the receiving end of many Modesto High School students, I would like to create some bridges between our curriculum and high school curriculums. We have students who come in, they've been successful in their high schools, and then very unsuccessful in our college classes. And so we need to have greater dialogue between higher education, Modesto Junior College and Cal State Stanislaus in particular, and within our town. And there, I did that a long time ago at Long Beach, and it was great to hear what high school teachers are doing and what we're doing in the colleges. And there's so many great things happening that we just both learn from each other. And we're a much more expository, research-based writing curriculum. Modesto City Schools is a little bit more literature-based, right? And we need to kind of bridge that. And so more collaboration. And then since I have 30 seconds, I will add greater parity. I'd love to see between the arts and sports. My son is paying over $750 out of his pocket to be in marching band because they have threadbare, marching suits, and they need to pay drum techs and so forth. And when a cello gets stolen at Mark Twain, as it did in my friend's class, like that cello is not getting replaced, right? And so that is not the same thing that occurs. We build pools and we support sports teams, and that's great, but we also need to look at the arts a little more closely and see if we can support that as well. Thank you.
John, same question about your vision for Modesto City Schools.
Yes, my vision, which I would hope would be a collective vision, a district that's known for and has and sets the standard for student success for all students through innovation, through technology, through high expectations, parent engagement, community engagement, business engagement. And I use engagement instead of involvement because they're two different verbs, in my opinion. When you're engaged in a process, it means you're lending your talents, your expertise, your knowledge, your thoughts, your insights to the process. So I want them to be engaged. I want us to be known for a district that has a disproportionate representation of the most vulnerable students succeeding than versus the other way around. I spent 14 and a half years with Modesto City Schools, and I've always known that they had the potential. And my vision would be, how do we take that potential and make it become reality? Because we have a lot of talent in Modesto City Schools, among our teachers, our administrators, our students. How do we collectively get that talent pool to help our district excel? Because education, Sam has said, is the equalizer. I mean, education is the true equalizer in our society. And so student success should be the norm and not the exception. And so that would be my vision as a collective vision, to see us be the district that we have the potential to be. I mean, the talent pool is immense. On the board, we have talent. We just got to be able to bring that collective talent together to get to that shared vision of success. Thank you.
Rodney?
I'd like to keep the concentration on, I'd like to keep the concentration on, preparing our students for college, but also I think there needs to be more of an emphasis on career technical vocations. Back when I was attending high school, the number one objective was to go to college and get a degree. These days, I feel it's more important for the service industries, trades, and computer fields to be taught in the schools. I know we have Enox, the forensic science, the Bayer robotics, and Downey, the culinary arts program, but I think we need to concentrate on getting the students who are not college bound learning, get them to up to standards to go out in the workforce and be good citizens.
And next, Mr. Mejia Homero, what's your vision for Modesto City Schools?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Great. Hope you can hear me. I envision that our district puts students and families at the center of every decision, building a culture of deep empathy for their experience in every step of the system. I also envision that if we want to improve our outcomes into the future, we must be collaborative, sharing our best practices, data, strategies, and hold ourselves accountable. That one day anybody from any area of town will come into Red Hawk, Robinson Road, and drive their kids all the way over here because all the schools have the same facilities, have the same trained and teachers, have the materials, and have the access. That's my ambition. I envision that no matter what neighborhood, no matter what level of income you come from, no matter what you have, the same. It doesn't matter which school in Modesto you attend. Thank you.
I have a question before we do this.
All right, that ends the 4 questions for the panel, and Trustee Marks has a question.
I have a question. I just want to ask the board if, because we had less candidates than we had before, if we could ask one more question, it would be kind of what I just wrote out real quickly was, tell us a little about yourself and why you believe you are a good fit for this position, to give them each 2 minutes to answer that question.
We are running a bit ahead of schedule, so I'm be open to that.
Okay,
Is
I
anybody
just
else
want to ask the board if that's okay. All right. So, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Want to read your question?
All right, so we'll draw another name for the first person.
So we're going to have an impromptu question, so. All right, this Frank.
Okay, so Frank, so tell us a little bit about yourself and why you believe you are a good fit for this position.
So why I'm a good fit and a little bit about myself really starts with my second grade teacher, Dr. Laura Limba, who you heard me reference to earlier. When I was in kindergarten, first grade, I got diagnosed with a tumor in my right ear, was taken out, and they took out 3.5 bones in my eardrum, and I could not read at the time entering second grade. I couldn't hear the difference between the sound of an A and a J. They sounded the same to me. And my second grade teacher asked me what my dream was, and I said to be able to read chapter books. And she worked with me. And that year, I wasn't up to going into third grade, but she thought I could be. And what she did is she worked with me all summer. Every single day when she could have been on vacation, decided to work with me and caught me up to where I needed to be. I made 3 years of growth in that summer when I had made literally almost no growth the few years before that. And since that moment, what she taught me, yes, it helped me with learning and helped me be successful later on. But what she taught me went outside the four walls of the classroom. She taught me that education is power, that anyone can learn, no matter what obstacle you face. And from that moment on, I decided to pursue a life of education. Since second grade, I wanted to be a teacher and nothing else but a teacher. As I got into high school, I decided that I wanted to do something in education besides just teach. Maybe be an administrator one day, maybe be on a board. But I wanted to do something because I believe so much in education. And that's led me to finishing college in 3 years. It led me to getting three credentials, multiple subject credential, a single subject credential, an administrative credential, and a master's degree. Now, when I entered my second grade classroom, had she not worked with me the way she did, I might have never made it to college. I might not be sitting in front of you today. I might not have even graduated high school, but she changed my life. So that is why I'm here today. Everything I've done in my life has been about education, about changing and helping students and helping people. When I was in high school, I volunteered at Beard Elementary because my mom's a secretary there, and I worked with kids in the ROP program, and then I worked with kids through college. Education is all I know, and it's all I've wanted to do because it is the power. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. All right, Sam, I will read the question again. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you believe you are a good fit for this position.
I'm professor of English at Modesto Junior College. I've been there for 18 years. I can't believe that, but it's true. I came up here from Long Beach after I finished graduate school, and truthfully, I did not think I'd be in Modesto very long. However, we had our first child. Once that child was in kindergarten, it was Modesto City Schools that anchored us to this town forever. We're kind of going to be here a long time. The love and support of those teachers at Fremont and Fremont Open Plan and the parents we met as a result, they're lifelong friends, and it is why I'm passionate about schools beyond just the students at Modesto Junior College. I was born to a Syrian mother who still speaks broken English, and a Korean War vet dad who was an English teacher. And so he taught me the value of literacy and education. And when I finished my master's degree, I came here, and I'm married with 3 children. I'm unique in that I have 3 kids at 3 different schools: Fremont Elementary, Roosevelt Junior High, and Bayer High School. And so I get to see across the entire district every single day, and I value that, and I want to be involved because I want to help those kids succeed. But also, as a teacher, I understand what teachers need from boards as well as what boards need from teachers, and I think I can be very successful in helping bridge that gap. I think you need a teacher on the school board who understands both the classroom and then the policies outside that affect the classrooms, and I think I'm a good bridge in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. All right, John, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you believe you are a good fit for this position.
Yes, sort of like my previous Frank and Sam, in terms of I never thought I would graduate from high school, and neither did a lot of other people who grew up where I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, because basically it was just kind of moseyed along through the LA Unified School District. And I never knew, about college. Nobody talked to me about college. I had one teacher tell me, I said I wanted to be a scientist, and he told me, well, you in basic math in the 9th grade, you'll never be a scientist. That kind of crushed my world, in terms of, man, I can't be a scientist. And so I always went through school with just barely, just making it, just enough so I could make it. Everybody in my family, just graduate from high school, get your high school diploma, never go beyond that. But when I got out of school, I wasn't prepared for anything. Even playing sports, I could have got a scholarship, but wasn't really into school because I didn't think I could make it. I could survive in college. And so I believe that passion and that motivation, I went into the military. I earned benefits to get an education. And so when I got out, that's one of the things I wanted to do, since I've earned the money to be able to go to school. And I went and enrolled in college while I was working. I was a corrections officer when I initially got out, 22 years old, and You know, I became a reserve deputy. You know, I was trying to do some careers, but education is where I really wanted to be. And so I charted a path. I graduated from college. I went to graduate school and did something I didn't do in undergrad, was graduated cum laude, you know, with 4.0, which I never in a million years would thought, but I had professors who encouraged me and believed in me, and because I was in graduate school on just thing. So I think I bring a wealth of knowledge, experience, and insight as a former employee and as an educator in the background to serve with passion and compassion, commitment, and dedication.
All right. Thank you, John. Rodney.
Sorry.
The question is, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you believe you are a good fit for this position.
I was raised in a small town in the Midwest, and my parents, my dad was mayor, and they really stressed paying back the community, and that's why I'd like to, you know, be a trustee on the board. I have a degree in accounting. Currently, I started out 3 years in auditing for the state of Nebraska, and I've been 24 years in private industry. And last 12 years, I've worked for Stanislaus County Office of Education. Currently, I have 106 school districts that I'm in my my database, and stretching from South Lake Tahoe to South San Francisco. And so anyway, I feel like I've had lots of experience with the general ledgers, salary and benefits of those school districts, and I've lived in Modesto for 34 years. I've lived in the same home for 31 years, married 26 years, and I put three boys through Modesto City Schools, Insulin, Roosevelt, and Downey, and 2 of them are college graduates. So I feel like, you know, with an IEP, my youngest son had an IEP, and, you know, so I'm familiar with, you know, the running of the school district, but more probably my strong point would be the fiscal end of the education system.
All right, thank you. Next, we're going to do Omero. Can you hear me, Omero? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm going to ask the question again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Shall I ask the question again? Okay, hear the question.
Great.
All right, the question is, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you believe you are a good fit for this position.
Yeah, well, thank you for the question. First, I came here, my parents brought me to the United States for economic reasons back in 1988, and I moved to South Modesto in 1989. I attended Bret Hart for 4 months, and then from there, I was transferred to Robertson Road because my parents were farm workers. And so I experienced movement, but I also experienced what it is to learn a language in the United States, which takes about 7 to 10 years to acquire the English language. So I think I have had that experience of a lot of our students at this moment in time, and also of the parents, what they have to go through in terms of understanding our school system. I came from that into very challenging years. I went to Mark Twain. I went to Modesto High. I struggled a lot during school. Partly, I had a lot of support, but I also had a lot of. I felt behind in my early years when I came here because I was acquiring the language. So all of that, and I bring in my passion because I've worked with. Because of that experience, I mentor students. I've talked to parents. I've done workshops. I partner with the other schools through my previous employment. For over 10 years with Jorge Perez, we were go to thousands of kids doing workshops and helping them with immigrant issues, with helping just literally. I feel like I've been embedded in this community as a student, as a person for parents. I've been like an advocate and a voice for them, and family to graduate from college, from having like F grades and learning the language to graduating with honors and with an ethnic liberal studies major and an ethnic studies minor. And I think my wealth of collaborations and partnerships and dedication and commitment, and all you got to do is ask around the folks that I've worked in this community, and will tell you my integrity and my commitment to students and families. And I feel like that qualifies me.
All right, Omar, your time's up.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Jessica, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you believe you are a good fit for this position.
Hi, so my name is Jessica. I am 24. I am I'm in college right now to be a speech pathologist. I went through the whole community college aspect, and then I did the whole transferring aspect. I currently am a substitute, so I'm versatile within the school district. As in a substitute, going class to class, seeing the differences. I'm an outlet to the students because they trust me. I'm younger looking, so they think I'm cool and hip, so they just tell me everything on their minds. The parents do as well. The teachers do as well. So it's just basically I'm the bridge to everything. I hear everything about the schools. That's what made me want to join the board and know about the board. I didn't even know of it. I'm going to school to be a relative service, so I'm learning about the special ed aspect and learning about the policies of that, which is interesting. My niece has epilepsy, so I didn't even know about any special services that were given to us in public ed. I thought, man, we don't have insurance. I was like, I don't know what to do, but it was amazing that happens. I also hold a different perspective as a Mexican young parenting teenage adult. Yeah. I realized that my daughter is going to go to the Modesto City schools, and I wanted to do the best for her and provide the best education she can be. I believe that there's a strong mental health problem going on with the schools, and I feel like we should address it. Going to school, I got straight A's and everything, and I was told that, I could be the best. And I was I did graduate highly, but there were so many things going on with me. My parents divorced. I had to take care of my young sisters. I'm the fifth, so I'm the oldest child out of my 5 sisters. And I had to take care of them all night when my mom worked graveyard. And it was hard, but the schools didn't really see it because as long as I was passing, they were fine with it. So I feel like we should have like an open day counseling day for them. And I feel like that's what I want to address.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Pat. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you believe you are a good fit for this position.
Thank you. I've lived in Modesto all my life. I went through all the schools, Wilson, La Loma, Downing High School. And then I got married, and then I got a divorce. And I was a single mom for 14 years. And as a single mom, I still managed to attend PTA meetings. I was very much a cake baker and whatever I needed to do back in those days. I was also a Cub Scout mother, and I did mine on Saturdays because I worked full time. But all that did was prepare me to continue. My son grew up a little bit, and I decided to go back to school. I went back to school and got my BS in accounting, and then I got my MBA, both with honors, and I felt really good about myself. And then I got slapped with a domestic violence sexual assault, and all my world went to pieces. And I managed to find mentors at that time to bring me back. I am now a counselor for them because I think I understand what they're going through. Even though I was a little bit older, it didn't really matter. I managed to go on and become a CPA. I'll be celebrating my 20-year anniversary in December, having a party if you'd like to come by. I'm a business owner, of course, and I understand budgeting. I'm set on many nonprofit boards because I believe in giving back to the community. I was funny today. I was doing some coffee, and I had this picture on my wall since I opened my business, and it says, "It won't matter 100 years from now whether I have car, money in the bank. All that matters is I made a difference in the life of a child." And I continue to do that. I'm a mentor to lots of young kids. I just put on, with the help of my Lions Club, a Spirit Princess pageant for disabled girls. Those that need help, whether it's born with a disability or whether there's something in their life that's caused it. I believe I have the knowledge and the caring to be able to make a difference on the board, both emotionally, financially, and passion. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Ryan, tell us a little about yourself and why you believe you are a good fit for this position.
Okay, so I want to start off by saying I'm very grateful for this meeting and to have me as an applicant. To tell you about myself, I want to be as humble as possible because I always feel like there's always someone else out there that is learning more than I am at a quicker rate. I'm always trying to research things in my free time. Whenever I can, I'm always taking more educational units, and I felt it was important to link you to my full background, my full employer history, education, experience. So I want to start off by saying I lived in Modesto for as long as I remember, since I was 4 years old, so it's been about 21 years now. Through that, I really enjoyed the school system. In high school, I was involved in many different clubs in Enox, the robotics club, the science Olympiad, a lot of those science-related clubs, and also the gaming club. I was also a police explorer from 2010 through 2012, and I felt like I learned a lot about basically what it's like to be a police officer and the laws and how to keep people safe. I also, after high school, I went to CSU Stanislaus at age 17, and I started working on my bachelor's degree for business. And I graduated in 2014 with a bachelor's. And after that, I'm working on my teaching credential, and now I've kind of shifted gears where I want to be a school counselor. But I also want to say I've served for many different school districts, Modesto City Schools, various charter schools, San Joaquin County too, not just Stanislaus. So I think that well-rounded experiences really helped me. And thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you. Well, thank you, panelists, for your time tonight. I've thoroughly enjoyed getting to know each one of you, and we appreciate each one of you who applied. This means that you support Modesto City Schools and you support what we're doing, and we need so many people in the community to do that in order for us to be successful as a district. So that takes us to the point where you guys are going to be dismissed as a panel and go out in the audience, and then we're going to deliberate as a board and figure out what each one of us is going to mark. I'm going to pass out a sheet of paper to put your three choices on this, and then we'll get and put your name on this as well, and we'll get the top three finalists. And so thank you so much, and we look forward to working with you, all of you, in the future, in some capacity or another. So thank you, and you're not like dismissed because we're gonna have finalists come back. So just from the table, so you can take a breather. There's a restroom out there. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
We don't, this is a non-ranked time. So what we decided last night is this would be non-ranked. And so you would just put three names, just three names, and then we'll go from there.
You know, dropping out.
You guys can pass them to me. Yeah. And then I think we'll take a quick break, a 5-minute break, because breaks over. So I'll go ahead. Everybody has given me a signed sheet. So what we'll do is we decided last night, each board member will not rank in any order, but just put their the top three people, and we would put a tally mark. So this is Charlene West. She has chosen John Irvin, Omera Mejia, and Sam Piersdorf. And okay, this is Brown, and that's Sam Piersdorf. Uh-oh, do we have a need for a new? Okay, Frank Liguria and John Irvin. Adolfo Lopez has Irvin, Mejia, and Piersdorf. Cindy Marks has Jessica Royas, Frank Liguria, and John Irvin. Trustee Newman has Frank Liguria, Pat Gillum, Sam Piersdorf. And Trustee Walker has Frank Liguria, Jessica Royas, and Pat Gillum. All right. Okay. So tally them up. We've got 4 on that, 2, 4. Okay, we have our finalists would be John Irvin, Frank Liguria, and Sam Piersdorf. All right, so thank you so much to everyone else that applied tonight. We appreciate your time, and we are so thankful that you have helped us in this process, and we look forward to working with each of you in the future. Thank you again. And we would tell Mr. Omero Mejia, have safe travels, and thank you for interrupting your vacation with us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. All right. So if we could have the 3 finalists come back up to the panel. And we have one last question.
Let you have your own mic.
Oh, thank you.
It's like American Idol.
I know.
They also have that.
It
feeling.
is.
Man.
I think. I think that each of you had a question. I drew your name out, so you were first in this last round, right? Each of you? Just Frank? Did John? Yeah, you went first too. John did too. So Sam, you're the lucky guy that gets to go first on this one. And so John, did you want to read the question on this? Okay.
I'm trying to be an observer.
are we doing? Is 2 minutes? Do we have more time, or is it?
Actually, we need to. We hadn't discussed the amount of time on this. This is a compound question. Do we want to allow?
Let's do 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I suggest we do at least 3 minutes.
I'm thinking 5 because
Okay,
it's
5.
2 questions in
Oh,
one.
there were 2. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm thinking 5 minutes, and we'll give you just like we did last time. We'll have a warning at 1 minute, and then half, and then time's up. Is that okay? Great. And so we'll go from Sam to Frank to John.
So when you say half a minute or half of it?
30 seconds. Yeah. So, all right. The question is, what is your favorite thing about Modesto City Schools? And if you could change one thing about the schools in Modesto City School District, what would it be?
All right, pressure's on. So I have to go with teachers as my favorite thing. We have such a tremendous support system at our kids' schools, and my parents and I, my wife and I are parents, and maybe we're slightly helicopter parents. And we've had issues arise. We have one student on a 504 and has not been totally successful. And when we've made the calls and asked to speak to principals and counselors, they've been extraordinary and receptive and open. And we've even brought issues of cyberbullying and things to their attention, and they've been right on top of it. So the staff and faculty at the schools that we've been at have been superb. And so I think anything the board can continue to do to support teachers, they're in the trenches every day. They have great ideas all the time, and I think it's incumbent upon the board to listen to those ideas and collaborate in any way that they can. What I would change, I'll go back to an answer I gave previously. I'm an artist. I'm a poet in residence in town. I've done numerous in-services for Patterson and SCO, and I've worked with continuation schools in Turlock, with at-risk youth, and we've done all kinds of poetry writing workshops, and every student has a story. And I love how the arts can get those stories told. And at one of my workshops, a 13-year-old girl, when I asked her how that writing went, she said, "I felt powerful." And that was so extraordinary. It was that feeling of empowerment that comes from the arts, whether it's music or poetry or dance, is huge. And I'd like to see greater emphasis and support, financially and otherwise, placed upon. I've gone to Mark Twain. My friend's a band teacher there, and that auditorium the gym is just packed with kids and proud parents, and that's not a population that always gets a violin, right, and has private tutoring at home and whatever, but that night they crush it and the parents applaud, and it's just beautiful. So I'd like to see, and then another thing I'd like to see is something we've started at MJC. I think we need more counselors overall. That may be too costly, but what we've employed is these things called student success specialists. They're kind of like right under counselors, and they do an intrusive kind of intervention. So they don't wait for students to check in and say, I'm depressed or I'm not doing well in a class. They contact those students, and they've got their caseload of 20 or 40 students, and they make calls when a student's absent for a day or two. They make those calls, and they're kind of the first line of defense, and then the counselor, and then teachers and so forth. And so having, whether those are interns from students at Cal State or MJC or whatever, or whether those are paraprofessionals, it'd be great to have a robust student success specialist program in addition to the counselors, in addition to the teachers, etc. So those are a few of the ideas.
Great, thank you. All right, this takes us, it's me that's supposed to ask the question. So, okay, Frank, what is your favorite thing about Modesto City Schools? If you could change one thing about the schools in the Modesto City School District, what would it be?
I think my favorite thing goes to what your guys' website and email has, MCS for Kids. That's really what Modesto City Schools is about. All of us in this room today, all of the teachers, staff members, and even retired teachers, our principals such as Mr. Cruz back there, are all focused on what's best for students and focused on being and doing what we need to do for the students to help them achieve and to help them socially, to help them emotionally. It's all about that. And that's really what the district is doing well. There's programs in place to help them emotionally, which hopefully continue into the future and even improve. But we have all these programs, and that's really what's going well. What's going well is we are for the students. Now, some things I would improve, or some things I would like to change, is we do rank 47th in math out of all the counties. We also rank 40th, looking at us as a county, but also Modesto City Schools is the biggest school district in the county, so that's important, over 35,000 students. Something that's going on there is we need to figure out what's going on, what's the issue, and we need to correct it. And how that is by looking at the various programs we have, which we do at the LCAP. We look at them and we decide which ones are working and which ones aren't. But I think we need to look more in depth at the programs. For example, I noticed on the LCAP that was passed yesterday that we have bridging between 8th grade and high school students. We need to evaluate that at the end of the year. Did that meet the goal that we were focused on, and is that really helping us meet the goal of the LCAP? We need to look at programs such as Math 108 and see, is that really helping with students to learn the math? Is it helping students who are falling behind? What is going on? So I think we need to really sit down, analyze the programs that are going on, identify the effective ones, identify the ones that aren't as effective, and then we got to ask ourselves, is there some way to make that program effective? Or is it something that we need to throw out and start over with some type of new program? We have a lot of issues that we face as a district, as over 35,000 students, and we need to determine what is best for all these students. And sometimes that is getting rid of programs that aren't effective and replacing them with ones that are. So I think that's what I would say we need to improve on, is really looking at an LCAP and sitting down as a board, as a community, as teachers, as administrators, and looking and seeing what is working and what isn't. And to take what is working and to spread it, to use it more often. And then also we need to research innovating ideas. There's a lot of stuff out there. We a lot of times look at Marzano, we look at other things, but we need to ask ourselves, is that really what's working? For example, I know that Modesto City Schools adopted a textbook curriculum that was Wonders. And I know out of the ones that they were looking at adopting, that they looked at only the California recommended. Well, for the first time in history, we don't have to use California recommended textbooks. We can actually use any textbooks nationally. But yet I didn't hear much discussion on other textbooks, other curriculum that we can find in other states. I think we need to look at what's most effective, and then we need to bring that to Modesto City Schools. Because what's going on right now, and I know we're all trying hard, isn't working. We're not at the top of all the counties, and we need to work because we have the potential to be at the top of all the counties. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this takes us to John. What is your favorite thing about Modesto City Schools? If you could change one thing about the schools in the Modesto City School District, what would that be?
My favorite thing about Modesto City Schools, and it would come from my position as a parent, and I would say is its diversity. My children, all four of them, had a chance to really go and excel in a diverse Modesto City School population. Where they've garnered lifelong friends from all various cultural groups, racial groups, religious groups, and seeing how it's impacted their lives, as compared to mine, where I grew up, I went to schools that were predominantly at least 85% African American. And so when I left school, I was really in a cultural quandary, so to speak, when I went out to the real world. And so where things wasn't as abstract or concrete, depending on how you look at it, whereas my children have developed such a sense of who they are and those around them, and I attribute that to the good thing about Modesto City Schools, in that they have friends from all of those various diverse groups that has helped them, and my son comments on that to this day, as a college graduate, who just negotiated a nice contract with Microsoft as a cybersecurity engineer, and he's a product of Modesto City Schools. My daughter is in medical school, my other daughter is in college, and then I have the baby picking up the rear as a entering high school 9th grader at Davis in the middle college program. And so to me, that was my favorite thing about them, because they benefited from the education that they got from Modesto City Schools in a diverse environment. If I could change one thing about Modesto City Schools and Modesto City School District, what would it be? One would actually go back to Frank was talking about program evaluation. As a former program evaluator, 3 years is usually that benchmark in terms of getting back data where you can establish making changes on. So collecting data on programs and services that have been in existence that we've been collecting for 3 years and see if they are effective. and if they're not effective, start to look at implementing changes, whether within the program or outside the program, in terms of, hey, we may need to go in a different direction, and feel comfortable about doing that, because it's all about student success, and we don't want to keep belaboring on things that have not been successful based on the data and the outcomes. Also, I would I would like to see Modesto City Schools have a junior ROTC program. I mean, this is a major district, and man, you know, I've experienced a lot of junior ROTC programs at high school and see what they do to motivating students, to engaging students in discipline and decorum and bearing and things like that, and seeing students do the color guards on football fields and basketball courts, and you know, it brings such a sense of pride to not only the school but to country and so forth. And I mean, I don't know if it's unfortunate or fortunately, but many of those students don't go on and join the military, but they do recognize the importance of patriotism, hard work ethic, working as a team, you know, which is really, really important in today's educational environment, is working as a team and helping one another. And so that is really a cornerstone of, you know, a program that can go a long ways into helping students be successful in school. And like I said, being a major district without one, to me, it could be a chance for implementing one at one of our high schools. We have several military veterans that are products of our schools, you know, and it'd be nice to be able to honor that, those former students and current students with a junior ROTC program. So that would be a thing I would want to change as well. And so, and in closing, thank you again for allowing me to this round.
All right, thank you, candidates. All right, this takes us to the end of our questions that we had planned. Is there anyone that has any follow-up questions or something else that you would like to ask? Trustee Brown.
I'd just like to give everybody a chance for a closing statement.
Sure. Is that the will of the board? Yeah. Yeah. How about 2 minutes for a closing statement? And we'll go the other way. If Sam, would you be last, or
Sure, yeah, happy to be last.
So we'll go backwards that way. And so, if you're ready to go with a closing statement.
A closing statement. Again, I would like to thank the board, Interim Superintendent Rehnquist, for the opportunity to be a part of this esteemed panel. I think, you know, all of our hearts are in the right direction. I really feel passionate about putting in that application. You know, I thought hard and long on it, and decided it was the right thing to do. That I have such a wealth of knowledge, insight, respect, and again, that potential. I want to be a part of the innovation and the motivation and the drive to get our students to excel and exceed expectations in our district, because we do have the talent to really collectively bring that about. I want to see us as a model district. You know, I would work diligently to ensure that happens with all of you, and that we become that model district as a whole, rather than specific programs that we have that are model programs. You know, let's be that model district. Let's be that innovator. That when people think of innovation, they think Modesto City Schools. You know, when they think excellence, they think Modesto City Schools. And so I want to be a part of that charge. I want to be a part of that team. I want to be a part of that group that says Modesto City Schools is number one. Everybody wants to be part of a winning team. And I believe that this is a winning team. Let's work together. I would like to be drafted to your winning team. Thank you.
would like to thank all of you for the opportunity to be here. And, a lot of people forget about, well, the students don't know about the board. Some teachers don't know about the board, not teachers, but parents don't know. And it's a really important thing. What you guys do, the decisions you make are powerful. And I want to be part of that team. I want to be drafted to that team because you guys have the power to change lives, even if you're not the ones in the classroom. And what I can offer you is being in the classroom right now. Now I am in a different district, but I know what it's like. I know what the teachers feel. I know how the students behave. I know what they're interested in. I'm just trying to stay up to date. As I've moved through life, I just had twins in February, but it doesn't keep me from staying busy with what my passion is, and that's education. And being part of your team will give me a chance to give you guys some of the knowledge that you guys, I'm not saying you guys are lacking in because you guys have a ton of knowledge, but give you a different perspective. And I would like to be on there to give you that perspective. Since, like I said, since second grade, I've wanted to be a teacher. I've wanted to be in education. I've lived my life for that. I've studied education. I go home and read books regarding education. That's pretty much all I do. But at the same time, I know finances is important. And I'm also really good with finances. In fact, when I was student teaching at Downey, even though I was only student teaching, I believed that, you know what? I need to give these students my all. So I quit my job. I made a living by selling stocks. And I gave my all to the students every single day. Even though they were not technically my students, they were still my students. And I want to give my all to this board. I want to give you guys everything I have and the students in our community every single thing I have. Regardless of how much work it might be, how tiring it might be, it's worth it. Because at the end of the day, we have the chance to change lives. Because we're here to change lives. Thank you.
Just go. Sorry. Oh, okay. Well, I also want to be drafted. That would be great. Thank you, John, for the analogy. I want to thank everybody for listening. I've been on the other side of hiring committees and tenure review committees and administrative hiring committees, and it takes a lot of patience and time to listen to a lot of the answers. So thank you for that. I want to be on the board. I want to give back to the schools that have given my kids so much. I think I bring a unique perspective. I'm an in the trenches teacher. I see the end result of, I don't know what the percentage is, but a vast majority of our Modesto City School kids end up at MJC. And some of them are underprepared. And some of them are astoundingly well prepared and have chosen MJC instead of Berkeley to save a few bucks. And statistically, by the way, they will do better at Berkeley as juniors after going through 2 years MJC. Just a little shout out. But I want to help bridge the gap between the senior year and the first college year, and I want to collaborate with teachers at the high schools in order to do that. I bring a creative arts perspective. I think that's a voice that could be very powerful. I just know so many music lovers and dance lovers, and our son's at Bayer, and he's kind of a theater guy and can't do it. And it's a shame that program is kind of gone now. I want to give back to this school board, to these schools. I have a passion for education. I think there's no greater good in this world than education. I was telling John, I was in Africa. I just came back Saturday, and I was in a cab, and I was talking to the driver, and this is the third world. And I said, man, if you could be the president, what's the first thing you would do? And I thought he would say something about plumbing and water because it's just miserable there, right? I mean, literally, people are carrying water in their heads. And he said education. He said education is the most important thing. And they get it. They completely get it. And our kids get it for free, and it's world class. And I think they need to understand the value of what they're getting. And I want to help contribute to that in any way I can.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. This takes us to the point, and I'm going to hand out sheets of paper where we will, you guys can go ahead and go into the audience if you want, or you can remain there, whatever you want to do. And yeah, relax a bit. And we're, is there enough? Yeah. Oh, yeah, right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So tell us the rules. Tell us what we're doing.
Okay, so on this time that we just talked about last night, each board member votes for their top choice, and then if there's no clear winner, then we'll vote again. We'll hopefully be able to eliminate one, and then we'll vote again. So at this point, just pick your person. And or you could actually we were gonna rank them 1 to 3. So.
One being the most preferred candidate.
Yes.
And
Number 3 being your third choice. So go ahead and do that, and then everybody needs to put their name on it because this is an open meeting, and so what your votes are, they need to be counted, and so the public is aware. We're doing good on time, so we're not in any hurry. All right, so Trustee Lopez has number 1, Pierstorf. Number 2, Irvin. And number 3, Liguria. Brown, Trustee Brown has number 1, Pierstorf. Number 2, John Irvin. Number 3, Frank Liguria. Trustee Marks has number 1, John Irvin. Number 2, Frank Liguria. Number 3, Sam Pierstorf. Trustee Newman has Liguria, number 1. Number 2, Pierstorf. Number 3, Irvin. Trustee Walker has number 1, John Irvin. Number 2, Frank Liguria. Number 3, Sam Pierstorf. Trustee West has number 1, John Irvin. Number 2, Sam Pierstorf. And number 3, Frank Liguria. So this, we could take it down to what we decided last time was we eliminated down to the top 2. So that would be Irvin and Pierstorf. Yeah. Yeah. And so Irvin and Pierstorf. So that would mean we would vote between the 2, and this time we would just pick one. Or do we want to just go with this? Weigh in?
I'm good with where we're at.
We've got, well, let's see, what's the score? Let's see, 4, 5, 8, 10. Yeah, so Irvin, we got 10. So the golf score's 10. And Liguria, we have 14. So we'd have the lowest score would be John Irvin at 10, then Sam Pierstorf at 12, and then John Liguria at 14.
John also had 3 number 1s.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the most number 1s. Okay. So is it the will of the board that we narrow it down to 2? Because we decided last time that there was no clear winner, and then if one can be eliminated, then the board votes again. Is this a clear winner to the board? I think it is a clear winner. Okay, is that the consensus? I'm seeing that is the consensus. All right, then that means that welcome to the board, John Irvin. So, welcome to the board. All right.
This is a resolution, so it'll require a motion and a second, then a resolution roll call.
I'll make a motion that we appoint John Irvin III as our appointed board member.
Can I second that, please?
All right, the motion has been moved by Trustee Marks and seconded by Trustee Walker. And will you call the roll?
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Lopez?
Aye.
Trustee Marks?
Aye.
Trustee Walker?
Aye.
Trustee West?
Aye.
Board President Newman?
Aye. All right, then the motion and resolution passes unanimously. And so I'm going to read this so you'll know that the appointment shall be provisional and shall confer no powers or duties for the first 30 days. If no petition is filed within 30 days calling for a special election to fill the vacancy, then Mr. Irvin, you shall have the powers and duties of a board member and shall hold office until the next regularly scheduled municipal election. So 30 days from now means that our next meeting is, I believe, on July 23rd. And so it would be just a hair after that. So for the next meeting, we wouldn't be the full board. So you'd be seated after that. So it's 30 days from now. And that's required, I believe, by state law and the charter. So that's what we'll do. So thank you again. Are there any, yes?
I'd like to request a photo of the standing board and the appointee tonight, please.
All right. Is Miss Fortuna's in the back there? Are we got a camera? All right. All right. So we need to conclude the meeting and then we'll take a photo. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move adjournment.
All right. The motion has been made by Trustee Marks and seconded by Trustee Lopez. All those in favor, state aye. 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 We are adjourned.